All right. Well, welcome back to the Burrow's Post Frame 360 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Scott Cragg, along with Josh Nowlin. Good morning, Josh.
The awesomest, coolest host, Josh Nowlin. Yeah, that's me. Without further ado, let's
Oh, man. Without further ado.
hey.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, we're going to talk today about something that's really fresh on Josh and I's mind. We had some meetings here at Burrow's yesterday, mid-year, kind of looking at where we've been. It's been a rough start to the year. I think you as our listeners are feeling that as well. So a little bit of a rough start. And man, this is what we do as business owners, right? Sometimes we got to be reactive. We really don't want to live in a place of being reactive in our business. Sometimes it's a necessity, but always take time to stop, reflect. What did we do well? What did we screw up? And what gave us the opportunity to consider doing things a little different to provide more stability in the future. And so that's what we were doing yesterday, right? We had a visitor from our parent company come in and just said, "Hey, how are we doing? What are we doing? What do we need to do different? What do we need to do better?" And so I would encourage you, as our listeners, do that. Take some time to reflect on your business. And one of the things that came out of that, and that's why I said it's fresh on Josh and I's minds, is scheduling materials, right? So you may think, well, y'all just talked about that, scheduling your builds around the weather. Well, we talked about the weather. Now I want to talk to you about how you schedule one, when you sign a contract with your customer, how do you schedule a timeline? And then how do you schedule your orders with me so that I can make sure your materials are ready to be at your job site in time for your crews to show up and start building. But then we also need to talk about some of the due diligence involved on your part as a builder, contractor, and on my part as your supplier. So, Josh, that's the intro. What do you think, man?
I mean, you're spot on this as far as needing a schedule, needing an understanding of where you're at. And I'd be willing to bet that most of our clients have that because, in order to sell a project, typically the client wants to know, hey, what's your lead time? Well, that's what we want to talk about today is you know, some ways that Scott and I in the past have, from our experiences, scheduled projects and deliveries and things of that nature. And hopefully you can get a little nugget of, um, good information that you can take and run into your business. Now, I would highly recommend having a build list, right? I really like the opportunity of a first come, first serve build list. I think, having that is um, key to knowing, how long the list is. And, hey, if you want to buy a building from us, we need to get your name at the bottom of this list. And until you sign a contract, you can't join the list. So, but having an understanding of what your lead time is based on the number of crews, how productive those crews are, and uh, material lead times, things of that nature. So, one of the tools that I've used in the past is Smartsheet. Um, you can
Mhm.
it's a sort of a different version of Excel, and which Excel has um, Gantt charts, Gantt capabilities. Um, I've also used Google Calendar. So, I mean, Google Calendar is about as basic as it can get. You can plug in a job name, maybe a contract number, and plug in 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever you think it's going to take your crew to build that building from start to finish, and then you could line all those up in Google Calendar. It's going to work sort of like a Gantt chart would, and so I think that's pretty basic. Having as it relates to your construction crews, unless you're brand new and you're just starting and you're just getting going with your crews, you may not know how long it takes them to build a specific building. If you can tie that to like maybe a dollar value or something of number of hours, however you figure um, it takes your construction crews to build a project. That way, if you say, okay, well, this next build coming up, based on the history, based on what this crew does all the time, I know based on hours or dollar volume, whatever, it's going to take them 3 days to build this little 30 by 40 by 10.
Mhm.
So then you can plug it in for 3 days and get an accurate lead time. Not only, I mean, when you get that down pat, Scott, then it's real easy to schedule deliveries. You know, it's real easy to say, hey, Burrows, here's an order I just signed up yesterday. Based on my lead time and where my crews are at today, I'm going to need that delivered in 3 weeks on Wednesday.
Mhm.
Now, we're in the construction world, you're in the construction world, things change. It rains 3 days in a row, your crew loses 3 days. Chances are they're not making up that 3 days. They might make
Mhm.
up a little bit of it between
Right.
now and then, but chances are you're going to probably want to move that delivery out a couple days. That's fine. We don't want material sitting on the ground either. So I mean, that's my long intro to this subject, Scott.
Yeah.
From what I've said, so far, what do you think? I mean, what do you have to contribute to that
Yeah.
information?
I think whenever we get going as a business owner, sometimes we start to run on autopilot, and that's good, right? There's like some consistencies. Hey, I get up in the morning, I kind of got my routine. Yeah, I know that we can build a 30 by 40, 10-foot sidewall, one overhead door, two windows, and one walk door. We can do that in 2 days. Okay. That's great. That's good reference point, right? Something we do here at Burrows, and I'm going to challenge you as our listeners to do this right now. You may be thinking, Scott, I don't have time to do that. Okay. You may not have time right now when you're listening, but put this on your to-do list. We do time trials here, right? So, like for example, nail lambs. We'll talk about this more in an upcoming podcast because some pretty awesome stuff happening here at Burrows with nail lambs. But um, I have to know how long does it take for me from start to finish to produce one nail lamp. Now, the time is going to change based on the size, right? So if I got a 14-foot nail lamp, it's going to take less time to produce than a 22-foot nail lamp, right? Because it's going to take just a few extra nails to get to that length. So it's a time trial. So I know that I can produce a 20-foot nail lamp from start to finish, from the time that our guys put the lumber on the machine gets stacked, compressed, ran through, out, it's finished. I think we're at 45 seconds, right? It's pretty fast. It's pretty freaking awesome. I'll encourage all of our listeners at some point in time to come out and see it, right? However, I need to know how long does it take? So I can produce one LM every 45 seconds. Where am I going with this? Go out one day on your job site when the crew shows up with a stopwatch and do a time. How long does it take them to set a column? Start the clock. Pause it. Okay. My crew can set a column from digging the hole to setting the column. And then however you do it, however you choose to square it, whatever. But for your crew, it takes them 10 minutes per column. Let's say I'm using this as an example. And then how long does it take them to uh, attach the skirt board? Time trial. How long does it take them to set one truss? Stopwatch. And you're like, well, that sounds like a lot of busy work, Scott. Why would I do that? Well, that's going to help you in a lot of ways because if you know how long it takes your crew to do the different pieces of a structure, then you're in front of your customer and they're like, well, I want a 60 by 80 and it's got a 12-foot sidewall and no ceiling. So I'm going to put my trusses, 4 foot on center. You kind of know right off the bat, okay, da 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 da, do the math in my head. Okay, that's going to take us 5 days to complete. The more accurate you can be with your information, the easier it is for you to quote a job. Now,
So,
the next
oh,
part of
sorry.
that. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to add to that real quick, and because there may be some of our listeners thinking the same thing right now, Scott, and that is, okay,
Mhm.
what were the site conditions, the weather conditions that day you were out there
Uh-huh.
clocking them, setting the post? Because on a nice 68-degree fall sunny day in Oklahoma, that crew is going to be way more productive and moving faster than they are in a 98-degree humid summer
Mhm.
day or a sub-zero winter day. So what were the conditions, and how do the conditions affect that timing? So I think what you're saying is you can get a pretty good idea. What
Mhm.
that version doesn't include are the all the exterior variables. Did one of the crew members not show up on post setting day? Did one of the guys come to work hungover and he's working at about half speed today? Those kind of things. So I will bring back another way to do this here in a little bit, and then I want you to challenge me in the same way, Scott.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. And so just so you know, when we did our time trial, there's 100 and I think with the heat index and everything else out there in the truss barn, I think it was probably 110 degrees, and we're running 45 seconds. The guys are hot, they're tired. So could we do better than 45 seconds? Very likely, yeah, right? But hey, if you go out and show up on your job site and it's a sloppy mess, you can still do the time trial because here's the thing. There's a very good chance that whenever you go out to build a building at some point, you may say, "Hey, I can do a column in 10 minutes in a sloppy mess." Well, it's going to be a sunny day. I'm going to be building this building, in the late spring, early summer. Ground should be dry, looking good. If I did it like 10 minutes on a sloppy day, probably do it in, I don't know, 7 minutes. Like you can use some discretion here. The point isn't to be, hard and fast. The point is I need to have an idea of what my capabilities are, right? Because that's really, the gist of all this. What are your capabilities as a builder? What are my capabilities as a supplier? And Josh, you're gonna
Yeah,
come back to something, but here's really what we wanna get to, right? Me as a supplier, I have to be able to plan my business. Now, in the past, COVID and a lot of those other things, right? Our country is still coming out of COVID, still trying to release some of the things that we did back then because we were all trying to figure out what do we do in something like this. But at one point, we had a 3-day turnaround. Like, hey, you give us an order, we can have it pushed out for you in 3 days. Okay, well, whenever things were slow and we're trying to, do whatever we can to help our customers and help their customers, we were adapting. We could do that. I can't do that anymore. Okay, can I do that? In an emergency situation, maybe there was an error in a truss order. I can do some pretty cool things. I can't do that every day. I can't do, don't want to do, at some point, will not do 3-day turnarounds.
yeah,
It's not good
uh,
for me, it's not good for my people, it's not good for you because here's the thing, if you're like, "Hey, Scott, I wanna put this building order in, my crew's gonna be on site in 4 days." Well, guess what? We work very, very hard never to make a mistake, and we do pretty good ma about not making a mistake. But I send you your job, and let's say there's something that happens on transport. Let's say we get everything unloaded the day before, and your owner is out working on his tractor and backs over your metal. Guess what? You're in a pickle, and now you're gonna be calling me saying, "Scott, I need new metal." Well, I've got 18 other orders I'm trying to run. You see how this works?
yeah. I want to add to that, Scott. I really do, because the other thing that came out post COVID um, is a more complex building.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
because of that, maybe once we were doing 80% of our projects were standard stock trusses. Now it's exact opposite of that.
Yes.
Probably 80% of our truss builds are custom trusses, which take 3 times as long to set up the presses, all that kind of thing. Um, so with the more customization, the barndominium surge, we're all seeing it, we're all feeling it. But along those lines too, the more special order items a project has, you just need more time. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't do something in 3 days. So, uh, I want to touch, because you said someday we won't be at 3 days, and we may not be. I can't. I don't have a crystal ball. But one of our upcoming and maybe our next episode, we'll talk a little bit about this program we're working on internally called a quick ship program, where we we have a way to, with certain structures, we can still turn them super fast. And so,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
that's like, and you're right, we'll get into it, but that's like a stock building, right? But here's the thing. The
yeah,
reason why I say it, likely someday I'm gonna say we're not doing 3-day turnarounds. Why would you do that to yourself? Like,
yeah.
just
I
let's just
mean,
think. We were just talking about a calendar. Why would you do that to yourself and your crew?
it, and what I want to say to that is I want to take it back to our listener and say, this isn't necessarily Burrow saying we can and won't do 3 days in the future. This is Burrow saying, Josh and Scott saying, maybe there are ways we can work together as a partnership to help you run your business more efficiently, especially when you have lead times. Now, if you're coming off a slow season and you sell a building, you're like, man, I just need to keep my crew busy. Something happened. You need a building fast. Burroughs always has been and always will be able to help you in that situation. But I just think it's important to note that, you know, we're your partners here in your success. If you're successful, we're successful, and we need to keep focused on that too. And that's why we're doing the podcast, right? That's why we're flowing information to our customers. And one of the other things in our meeting, Scott mentioned our meeting yesterday. You know, we had someone from headquarters down, and just explaining to them that the what the podcast is, right? The podcast isn't meant to be an advertising tool for Burrows. It's meant to educate and flow important information
Mhm.
through to our clients and our potential or future clients so they
Mhm.
have a little
Sure.
better idea of who it is they want to partner up with.
Right. And so, guys listening, and if you're watching, I hope you're getting this. Like, maybe you're seeing a little bit of this, not tension, but different perspective between Josh and I. So I'm a planner, right? When it comes to my work, I'm planning everything out to the nth degree. I'm not saying Josh isn't. Josh may do things different. You may do things different. You're going to listen to this podcast and say, I don't want to do it that way. That's fine. Guess what? You're in the driver's seat of your business. We're in the driver's seat of our business. I'm not saying there's not exceptions to the rules. What I am saying is, why would you not try to plan your jobs out as far as you can to give yourself breathing room, cushion? Here's what I did, not only with my own company, but whenever I was with Morton, selling projects. I had customers inevitably, they wanted a building and they were okay with flexibility, right? I always had 2 or 3 jobs in my pocket that were 2-day, 3-day jobs. Oh, repairs were awesome, right? I'd put repairs in my back pocket. So, I can't get out to my job and I can't start it next Tuesday like I wanted because maybe this other job ran long, or I can't get to that job on Tuesday because it's raining and I need a 3-day filler. Oh my gosh, repairs, right? So, if
Hmm.
you guys aren't out there doing repairs, it's pretty awesome. It's
Yeah,
great
there's a lot of
fillers for
money in
crews.
repairs
There's
too.
so
A
much
lot of
money in
money.
repairs. You know how many people call us, customers, end users call us saying, "Hey, do you know anyone that can do repairs?" And hey, guys, email me. If you do repairs, please let us know. We can send business your way. But there are a lot of ways to work your business and plan your business so that you keep your crews busy, you know what's coming, and we, as a supplier, know what's coming because I'm going to tell you on the back end, and I'm not going to get it all to the nitty gritty, but it is really, really hard when you've got, 80 something contractors all wanting jobs done, which that's what we're here to do. We're here to give you materials, but it's the ones that are like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. It really makes it hard for us to plan because, and again, I won't get into the weeds. I hope take me up on this offer. Please come out, schedule a tour with me. If you haven't been out here a while, if you've never done a tour, let me take you on a tour. I want you to see what happens. When you see what happens, you'll be like, whoa, the fact that you guys can even get me a building in 7 days, that's pretty impressive. There are so many moving parts. We have to plan lumber. Okay. So I'm making trusses, girts. I've got to plan lumber. We have to order lumber. We order lumber based on demand. Well, how do we know how to do that? We go back and look at previous year's trends. How many new customers
Hmm.
did we have? Did we have any attrition? What did the season look like? There is so much that goes into being a supplier. And if we have our builders turning in their jobs 3 or 4 days before they need them, it screws everything up because it's
Yeah.
hard to plan for that. Because the ones who have said, "Oh, I need this building in 6 weeks." Okay, great. Well, we're gonna make sure we got enough inventory in 6 weeks to fulfill all the orders that we have to fulfill in 6
Hmm.
weeks. Same thing with 4 weeks or 3 weeks. So, whenever the last minute ones, that makes it really hard, right? Because now, like, "Oh, well, I've
Hmm.
gotta pull this inventory to do this job." Uh, and so it's always this planning juggling match, right?
Not to
You wanna
sound
say
like a
something, Josh?
broken record here, Scott, but that's exactly why we listen to our customers say, oh, based on the volatility and the pricing and stuff, we don't really want to turn our orders in early. We want to
Yep.
make sure that we've got the money in the job when we order the materials. And I could go on about this subject for an hour, but bottom line is this: we listened, we heard you, we came up with a pre-order program so that you can order your
Mhm.
buildings early, and we're going to lock in the pricing. So, there's no longer that risk. But what it helps in the partnership side of things from our perspective is it helps us understand what's coming down the pipe so that we
Yep.
can make those purchasing decisions,
Mhm.
and sometimes it could help us protect pricing too, because we know, hey, we got this much coil coming down, metal pricing's going up. We can
Yes.
protect our client's price by purchasing that
Early. Mhm.
coil ahead of time.
Yes.
So, this is why scheduling is so important.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we've talked about scheduling crews, and we've talked about scheduling your material orders. But if there's any conversations or any more in-depth information you'd like on the subject, feel free to reach out to Scott or I, either one of us, because it's really not that difficult
Mhm.
to schedule your projects out. And I never shared with you, and if it's okay with you, Scott, I'd like to do it now. The other way that I've used in the past to understand lead time. Right? Is that okay? Is it
Yep.
a good time for me to run in? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because I know we're going to be out of time here shortly. I'll try to make it quick. So generally, you know what you're paying for your labor. Like when you sell a job, there's a dollar value of labor inside that job.
Mhm.
And a lot of our listeners probably use subcontract labor. So it's another construction crew, a 1099 crew
Mhm.
that you are scheduling to do your work, to build your building. So one thing that I've done in the past is to say this labor contract is $8,000. So that $8,000 labor contract, it took this crew A, it took them 4 days to build it.
Mhm.
So then you have a daily rate. So they were operating at $2,000 a day. They were very efficient.
Mhm.
You might have crew B do the same job and it takes them twice as long. So now they're building at $1,000 a day.
Mhm.
If you keep that information over time, you can go back and divide that out and get a number, a dollar amount per day volume for your construction crews that are all inclusive of guys that are hung over on a job, good weather, bad weather. I had to take the day off to go to the wedding. We added a guy to the crew. You can use the averages over time, and you can get that crew A operates at $800 a day. Crew B, they operate at $1,200 a day. So if you've got a labor contract that you're about ready to give them, you could say, well, that's a 4 day bill. That's a 6 day build. And it makes it real easy for you at that point to schedule your crews out and know what your
Mhm.
lead time is.
Right.
So that's another way you can handle it.
Yeah, so, with this theme that we're talking about here is how you manage your business, taking time to go back and reflect. So, doing the breakdown of your crew hours, right? Looking at how quick you can get a building put up or how efficiently you can get a building put up. But ultimately, here's the thing. Schedule your buildings with us as quick as you can. Josh just mentioned we got a 60-day price lock. All right? We can do that because if you start turning your orders in and allows us to plan our materials, then we can lock in our prices, right? Here's what I don't want you to do. Go back and listen to the other podcasts if you have to, specifically Bling Bank or Bust. You need to be collecting deposits. So if you sign a contract and you're not going to need the building for 2 months, you need to be collecting, my opinion, at least enough money at contract signing to cover the cost of your materials. Well, now you got, let's say it's a $30,000 building, you're going to collect, 30% down. You've got 20, you just collected whatever, $8,000. Don't go spend the money. Don't collect $8,000 now for a job that you're going to pick up from me in 6 weeks or have delivered in 6 weeks. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul. Don't build your coffers and then start operating out of it. And then you need a building from me and you don't have cash flow to purchase the materials. You got to be strategic here, right?
It kind of reminds me of just the good old fashioned balance in a checkbook, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
when you write a check, at Walmart, it might take, collectively 6 days before that money comes out of your account. So
Hmm.
on day two, if you look at your bank account, it's still going to show that money's there. Well, no,
Right.
it's not because you wrote a check yesterday.
Right.
So, it's just simplify it. It's like
Yeah.
that is not your money. That is the money for the material
Right.
of the building.
Yes.
Your money
Yes.
will come when the building's complete and the final payment is made. If you
Yeah.
stick with that, you're golden.
Yeah. And, and I'm going to share with you this, right? Is whenever I was with Morton Buildings, I would sell a building. I would collect a percentage down. That's part of how I got paid. That's how I provide for my family, right? Well, I can't go, oh, I sold a $80,000 building. I got an X number check for I'm going to go blow it now. I don't have all the money yet, right? Because I would get my compensation, most of it was based on when we collect a payment, 30%
Hmm.
down, I get paid a little bit. Delivery payment, I get paid a little bit.
Yep.
I didn't get my complete payment until the job was finished.
Hmm.
Then I can say, oh, well, Scott made X off of this job. Don't go spending money you don't have. And just because it's in your bank account, it's not yours yet, right? That money in your bank account is not yours until you have paid for materials, you have paid for your labor of your crew for the job, any incidentals that might have taken place, overages. Only after the job is complete do you have money to spend. And you should have an accountant if you're not good with money. That's how this works. This is business 101. Don't
And we
spend
should
money
end
you
it
don't spend it.
with that.
Yeah,
We should
don't
end this
spend money.
episode with that
Yeah,
point
don't
blank.
spend money you don't have. Plan ahead. We're trying to help you out. 60-day lock-in. Call us if this doesn't make sense. We want to work with you, right? We want to plan for you. Please plan for us because when that all works, we get along. We get along. And man, that's the goal here. Happy, happy us, happy you. Everyone's happy. So, Josh,
Post frame 360 for life. Like and subscribe. Share
oh,
with your friends.
man, let's see. I don't know if that's gang slang or you throwing Longhorns since you're in Texas. Oh, Pete. Oh, there we go. Guys, hey, this is so much fun. We really enjoy doing this with you. Thank you for the feedback. Please continue to send it to us. If you have questions, send those in. We may have a podcast in the future where Josh and I answer your questions. So, hey, start submitting questions. Ask us anything. We'll either tell you an answer, we'll make up something that sounds really good. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode of Post Frame 360.